It's time.
So,
but talk about players slipping in the draft.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Two guys I have pulled up.
Biggest name in your guys' opinion?
Biggest slip?
Biggest slip. Not nipple slip, but slip.
I mean, it's Nakobe Dean, in my opinion.
Don't say Dean.
Non-quarterback.
Let's not do that.
You want to throw a quarterback name out there?
Throw a quarterback name out there.
I should have, but
I don't want to, and I hate to do this because
quarterback?
this guy still went first round, but I think it was a slip, and I think he should have been way higher. It's Jermaine Johnson.
Disagree. But I don't have a quarterback because I don't care about them. So can we switch?
Yeah.
Were you going to say Malik Willis?
Because that's I played linebacker, so can I go Dean?
And Malik Willis, is that what you're going to talk about?
Can you go quarterback now, please?
I mean, Malik Willis and all the quarterbacks. Like, I think that's a whole conversation.
Well, let's get into it after we talk about
they say
Jermaine Johnson. I don't believe that.
Give me some background on Jermaine Johnson. I mean, I know it, but just give me just a little bit of.
So, I think what was insane to me with Jermaine Johnson is eye test, check. Athleticism, pro day stuff, check. Play, check. Ranking on big boards, check. Interviews that they said he's bringing his notes. He's saying that this is what this guy did to me. This is what this guy did to me. He's doing that stuff in his interviews, and he's acknowledging his flaws, what he needs to work on, all this different stuff.
Right.
Check. He's just taking responsibility for his own actions. On paper, I'm looking at this guy, and I'm saying, okay, this is
what was his.
A lot of edge rushers are saying, or a lot of teams needed edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And this was a guy that was 1 or 2 in that, and there was
and he went
3
where?
or 4.
Where'd he get drafted?
He got drafted 26 by the Jets. With again, Jets great.
Honestly,
but
that's who I thought Dallas was going to take.
Jermaine Johnson. Mm-hmm. But looking at it, how many edge rushers were taken before him? Like 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And this guy, I thought, was potentially the
okay. So I think part of this comes into play, and I don't know his background of the whole personal shit because apparently that's never part of the conversation,
right?
Publicly.
But then that's why you don't get drafted.
That's why you don't get drafted,
right?
From a statistics standpoint in his playing career,
he
went from JUCO to Georgia to Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with this jump. This is questionable. Why go Georgia to Florida State?
Because Georgia had 16 dudes on an 11-man defense drafted in the first round.
Okay. Right.
I mean,
yes. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He couldn't start at Georgia.
So he's clearly not going to be picked above those guys.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't disagree.
So then you throw that into the mix and you go the top. Obviously, the top 2 picks were going to be who the top 2 picks were going to be. And I love Hutchinson going to Detroit. It's really – there was a lot of, like, homer picks, and I love it across the board.
Yeah.
So you get really all the way to the first – outside the run, edge first. Mm-hmm. Then you got some tackles and stuff that had to be picked. Really, the flip was the Falcons pick. They either going here or they went with receiver.
Right.
And I believe part of his slip was, 1, again, top tier talent. He's going behind Georgia kids. Okay. 2, he got hurt because of the receiver sprint. That's to me the true reason he fell. Mm-hmm. The receiver sprint, it overruled what was going on there.
And this was a receiver draft. It was receiver loaded.
Tied for the most receivers taken in a draft.
Yeah. And it was a receiver
19,
edge draft. That's who it was going to be. It just depended when that run kicks in, you're going to fall. And to me, him falling wasn't – it was a fall. But
wasn't it kind of an on-the-field production fall? Like he checked all of the boxes except for like –
super production. And a defense that was super productable.
Right.
Like they didn't produce.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And they lost huge games. He didn't step up in big games. He didn't step up at the end of games sometimes.
Right, because I look at
against lesser talent.
I look at Dallas because Dallas passed on him at 24 drafted a tackle, and then drafted a first-team All-SEC defensive end with off-the-field issues, who they obviously saw as a better talent that they knew they could get later in the draft, or at least the same, because they would have taken. I mean, they would have taken him if they didn't, because he played at an SEC school, was a first-team All-SEC pick, and this guy moved from an SEC school to an ACC, which was arguably the worst or second worst.
They weren't good.
Conference in the FBS.
Who was worse in your eyes?
What do you mean?
Conference-wise?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Pac-12 or ACC?
Okay, so that brings up my point here.
Southern Belt.
I know
His number.
Like, there's so
numbers.
many bad below.
Right.
His numbers were virtually identical to a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be the number 1 overall pick in Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh, I completely
Virtually
agree
identical
with that.
there. So if we're talking, conference wise, then I think the ACC's better
I don't
overall.
understand why the Pac-12 I feel like gets drafted because of their speed. I mean, why else? Because like they have a ton of defensive backs taken. Like guys from Washington are going. I mean, this kind of goes back to our Texas conversation. It's like, how are all these Pac-12 schools getting dudes drafted, and Texas doesn't have one guy that's as good as any of those guys? Are you serious?
4.5 more sacks and 5.5 more tackles for loss. Jermaine Johnson was that much better, I guess, production-wise than Kayvon Thibodeau. I think, Stoy, you made the great point of you transferred twice.
He transferred twice.
If you went from JUCO to Florida State, you're good.
It's good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously,
that's where I'm viewing it.
It wasn't just one team that passed on
but
it.
You guys, they lost to Jayville State.
I get it.
Okay. He had a good game. He had 3 sacks, which you should.
Mm-hmm.
They got crushed by Wake Forest. Lost
Wake Forest was really good this year.
early. They were good early.
They were solid. They were competitive all year.
They were still a top 20 team all year.
Agreed. But because they came
What
out
they do against
hot.
Clemson and NC State?
They lost by 10 against Clemson. They lost to NC State by 14.
NC State's a top 10 team,
And they lost to
going into this
Florida.
next year.
So you got to look at the big games. Now, he did play well against my phone.
I mean, Clemson doesn't count. Clemson only played defense this year.
True. So that's why I want to look at what his stats for it. Because
But clearly
honestly,
somebody saw something on film, and that was repeatable through the draft as far as him dropping.
I mean, not bad. Four solos and a sack against and 2 TFLs. Right. So, I mean, he had the stats against the right teams. And I was looking at a Clemson in a shit school, because you have to look at those.
Mm-hmm.
So he did fine, but I believe part of the overall factor is SEC to ACC, and then losing games to teams you shouldn't lose to. If you're the dude,
leader,
that does not happen.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But the running receivers is the answer for me.
Right.
He dropped because of the receivers.
Okay.
I don't disagree with that.
So that was your biggest drop.
Yep.
I thought that was a big, very, very, because he said don't say Dean.
No, yeah,
I would have said Dean, honestly.
Dean,
I would have said Dean or
know why though.
we
know why?
Yeah, it's
his pec, his
is
shoulder.
He gonna miss a year and a half when he
came out and said, "I'm 100% healthy, good to go."
Yeah, but the doctors didn't tell him that, and that's all they're listening to. They're not listening to the player.
Yeah.
Now the thing I don't like is that he declined doing surgery.
Right.
Somebody told him to do that.
Surgery makes him miss next year.
Someone told him to do that because get through the draft, get picked high. No, get the damn surgery.
Especially if
true.
The doctors of all of these teams are saying, "Hey, he's going to have the surgery,"
and that was why he fell off a cliff.
Right.
And I believe someone, and this goes into,
he got bad information.
This goes into a lot of our industries, everything we do every day.
Right.
They got bad information from a person who was not in his best interest. They should have told him, get surgery, get healthy. Who cares when you end up getting picked? You'll be fine.
Right.
You know what?
He's now dropped. Now he's going to have surgery at some point. Now misses a year.
Mm-hmm. Georgia's going to be good, right? We know that Georgia's going to be good. He had a red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
to burn if he wanted to with his surgery, and he could have had another year of production if he really wanted to.
Nope. You get surgery, go get drafted. He would have been drafted higher than he was with surgery.
Oh, I agree.
You do not
You
take
think he
that
would have
risk
got
here.
drafted second round, third round?
Probably.
Okay, because he went in the fifth.
Well, it depends
fourth?
on when. If he
When
would
did he go? When did he end up? Fourth or fifth?
Third, 83 overall.
Okay, yeah, okay.
he would have been
Projected 17.
to me he would have been borderline end of first, second with surgery right after national championship game.
5 of his teammates went in the first round.
He would have
He
been
was
he was going there.
sixth, or he was going to be before 2 of them, in my opinion.
He would have been a first rounder, I believe, with surgery in recovering well.
You think?
Yep.
Had he had the surgery, still first rounder.
He would have been. He would 20 to 20 to. He would have been 20 after 20.
Mm-hmm. So he went. Yeah, I know. Basically,
He'd have been mid. He'd have been mid
60 picks though later than he was projected.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing: is like, how was that missed up until draft day? Like from like as many people as report on this, nobody had him dropping until he dropped.
Or they just ignored it and thought that his production and his level of play and Georgia being at where they were in the SEC and in the national championship, they're the epitome of what we're seeing outside.
Well, and all of his
right with
teammates
Alabama.
went, so it's not like it was we're
Now this is the thing I don't know if you have the answer, but I definitely don't. Of in the drafting process, right? You have the whole thing. Where does the in-depth medical fall?
I mean,
Is that later with when you get into the personal stuff?
It's got to be a
Clearly.
team to team basis, and it's got to be a team need.
All on top of it.
So,
Absolutely.
like, if you're drafting linebacker for a team need, like first or second team
should be
need,
up there.
you can't afford to not move him down your draft board, and therefore take someone. But at some point, the value pick is like, where does he become the value? And therefore, at third round, 83rd pick, he became a value pick as a medical risk.
Right.
Dallas took their medical risk in the 5th round.
Great.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
like, teams don't usually. So, like, your first round pick becomes a 3rd round pick because of, I know he needs surgery.
Right.
At least that's what every NFL. I mean, that's what 32 teams thought.
Yeah.
I know he needs surgery because he wouldn't. It only took one team to get an opinion that is, I don't think he needs surgery, in order to draft him earlier than that. And obviously that wasn't the case. Obviously, in my opinion, all 32 teams think he needs surgery. And that's why he dropped all the way to the 3rd round, because he's a first-round talent. So, like, and that's why I don't understand how that was missed, is because, like, it's not like it was 50-50 on the teams thinking he needed surgery, or he just would have went later in the 1st round than we thought.
Now the question is, was it missed, or was it just missed in the media?
Well, yeah, but, like, there's enough
really
guys in
knows?
the media that, like, you got to know if a dude's.
I was about to say that he went to the Eagles, who have depth to take on that.
No, they don't. But they find, like, if he dropped
They don't.
to the 3rd round, like, if he was available for the Cowboys to pick in the 3rd round, all day I'm a fan of that pick.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
I agree.
Like, that dude's a stud.
I agree. He's and then now, you know what, he's going to remind me of a Ray Lewis, actually, where now he has this chip legitimately on his chest, probably.
No, it's his shoulder.
It's his shoulder. It's part of the shoulder.
It's literally a part of the shoulder.
And he's probably going to turn into an all-pro and dominate for a London Fletcher 106 years.
So, I mean, I was most disappointed in how well the Eagles drafted, because I think they really closed the gap in
Because they're in your
the
division.
NFC
Oh,
least.
absolutely. Now, the Commanders? Yes. Commanders and Giants.
They had fine.
Not bad.
They did all right.
The whole
But they're
division
so
had-
bad.
right? The whole division had solid draft, but
They're
I feel
just-
like the Eagles they did a lot.
They
and
will
obviously
compete
had the
with you.
trade as well.
They
So,
will now compete with you. Before draft, Cowboys 100%.
Right.
Cowboys now 80. In my opinion, the Commanders and Giants still have.
and that's with the Cowboys
A long
having a
ways to
solid
go.
draft as well. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
all right, quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks. Resident quarterback.
To your point, I mean, quarterbacks finally got valued where they were graded. Teams didn't reach for a quarterback, and a lot of that has to do with, we have a ton of great young talent in the NFL right now at quarterback. So teams can't afford to reach because if they reach, they're doing the same thing again next year, and you can't reach 2 years in a row. You're not building your team.
The Browns tried that.
Right. So I think with available free agent quarterbacks that are still unsigned, in combination with knowing what next year's draft class looks like and knowing what grades all of the teams had on these quarterbacks. I mean, Malik Willis, as everyone reports, had a 3rd-round grade. Guy went in the 3rd round. Sam Howell would be the one that dropped the furthest as far as graded
To where,
versus drafted, but that simply comes from the fact that everyone dropped, so therefore he just happened to drop furthest because he was really the one of the 3 or 4 that was going to go 2nd or 3rd round versus 1st round with that early run that could have possibly happened on quarterbacks. So I think he was just more of a victim of circumstance, not necessarily I think he was a great value in a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
But Pickett goes 1st round to the Steelers. To Stoy's point, hometown.
They got their
kids
guy.
staying in Pittsburgh got their guy.
huge.
Got their guy. I don't know where other teams had him. Did Pittsburgh need to move up to get him? Whatever it is.
No clue.
But they got who they were trying to get, and kudos to them. And the dude's
I
gotta be
think
pumped to
solid.
play there.
I think if the
Right.
and
he's
they're
playing
going
with
to
talent.
sell tickets.
They've
I
got
honestly,
talent.
personally, like you said, when the Falcons started that wide receiver sprint,
Mhm.
the Falcons don't go there. I think maybe the Steelers think about moving up because as soon as the Falcons went there and said, okay, wide receiver is now and it's a need, everybody went there.
Mhm.
If the Falcons don't go there, I think maybe the Steelers have more of an incentive to move up because maybe somebody values a quarterback more than some of these wide receivers right away.
But I think they saw it early, like when the Panthers didn't take one. I mean, that was the first spot
Yeah.
that people were talking. They're like, all right, so then Pickett goes. The only thing that was argued with him was hand size and
Tiny hands.
whatever.
So
the
many
dude
memes
plays
about
in
his tiny
Pittsburgh
hands.
already, so going to be playing in Pittsburgh. It's not like they play indoors,
And he might wear a glove.
right?
Who cares?
Tom Brady wears 2.
Teddy two gloves,
Roethlisberger
baby.
Right.
wore gloves.
Exactly, and that dude had some
Big deal.
paws on him.
Yeah.
So let's see, you had Malik Willis. Matt Corral was my favorite of the quarterbacks. I think he'll be the best pro.
Define pro.
I think
In
he
your mind.
has the best skill set for today's NFL to fit into different schemes.
So survive the longest.
He can play in multiple schemes because of his skill set better than the rest. He doesn't need to be coached as much as the other guys or schemed as much as the other guys.
I just want to know what you meant by pro because
Because,
a lot of our audience will think, oh, he's going to be the best player.
No, and
No, he's
I
going
think
to be
he
as a professional. That means playing in the league as long as you can, doing different,
So-
positions and different techniques and
in my mind, that means that he does become a starter, but that also means that he can back up in a lot of different systems because of his skill set. Pickett's not far off from that, but I think Pickett in Pittsburgh, that just makes sense. It's kind of just a natural match. But from another perspective of, I would have rather seen the Falcons take Corral because I think that he offers as much as what Ritter does, but I think that he also offers the accuracy part, and he's played with those athletes against those athletes
it's fair.
with not a great offensive line, but with great athletes. So his adjustment to
Quicker.
NFL speed is going to be quicker than a guy that played at Cincinnati.
Right.
Although the guy that played at Cincinnati played against 2 amazing cornerbacks every day, and I can
Sauce guard.
that.
A little sauce.
Well, and who's the other corner at Cincinnati is just as good.
Right.
So he played against
Right.
2 NFL top 5 talents
Daily.
daily.
Yeah.
That's going to lend to accuracy and stuff like that. So again, nothing against that. That's what I see out of Corral. I see the toughness that him and Pickett have, which was talked about. Those dudes are gamers,
Oh, absolutely.
but more athletic than Baker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And just a little bit more I mean, I think they just played in systems that allow for
Pickett
earlier
fits
development.
Pittsburgh, but he gives them another dimension.
Right. So,
Just
which you have to have.
He's a smaller Big Ben with more athletic ability.
So, I
So
mean,
it's fantastic for Pittsburgh.
Right.
That's
I
what
love it. I absolutely loved it for
But
this.
then you
city.
look
I
at-
loved Kenny Pickett this year. Like I thought
Right.
he was my number one quarterback all year.
Minus the whole slide debacle.
I just-
which is
That
the
one,
same
I
thing.
agree.
The thing
But
that's
I
tough
loved
is-
Kenny Pickett all year.
they just don't play anybody.
That's
tough.
That's a factor.
But he's going to play with some dudes. I mean, Pittsburgh's got some dudes on offense. Like they're going to be solid. He's gonna
He's gonna end up
like
starting.
that's why I liked Corral over Pickett was who they played against and who they
fair.
played with.
That's fair.
But Willis, huge arm, great athlete, deadly inaccurate.
That's his issue.
Inaccuracy in the NFL is a
And
huge
you
sign
you
of
talk about
failure.
this with Allen. Huge last season
Mhm.
was his ability to go from his first year to second year and learning how to be an accurate quarterback. Can Willis do it?
It's the toughest thing in the NFL. The NFL quarterback history says no. However,
Allen crushed the shit out of that one.
Mahomes and Allen,
Just destroyed it.
two of the
Well,
top.
Mahomes last year.
No, I know.
Debatable.
Right.
But
like,
yes,
I'm talking
agreed.
about
I
from
agree.
when they were drafted to what they are. They have broken the mold
Absolutely.
as far as
Agreed.
guys that were inaccurate or inaccurate by college standards
Yeah.
compared to what you need to be in the NFL. The windows are tighter. Everything happens quicker. The processing. That's where I struggle with Willis is that he didn't play in a system where he had to play fast, and he still wasn't accurate. Same thing with Allen in Wyoming, though. He played in Wyoming. Like, he didn't have to process things. I mean,
And
the
he-
talent wasn't there,
Just
but the
the
arm
king.
strength was
Oh
on.
my lord, he could do whatever he wanted.
So can Willis do it? I mean, yeah, absolutely, because recent history shows us. But that was what was odd to me, that I thought he would be the first quarterback off the board because of those two, and his upside is higher than anyone's because of the two guys that we see play every day. But
Agreed.
so, like, I think where he went is also great value, like, because if you can get a quarterback of that athleticism and arm strength who can actually develop and will have now time to develop, and he pans out, that's a home run. That's a grand slam to walk off the World Series.
And hometown?
Right.
I'm just saying, like, those are all factors.
Would you compare Malik Willis to an RG3?
No.
No.
He'd be closer to RG3. Just ran way more.
Russell?
Willis didn't look to run that.
Russell-ish?
No, more so than that. Bigger
Jalen
arm.
Hurts?
No.
Bigger arm.
The bigger arm. I can't get the
Athleticism-wise, yes, but
arm.
Probably more.
It's the arm that
it's
you
the
can't
arm.
get.
Like, but he
That's
doesn't
what I'm trying to.
have-
That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's
I mean, it's
talking
It's
athleticism.
Josh Allen
And Mahomes.
light.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like
You're right.
that's exactly what it is. It's because you compared Liberty to Wyoming, talent wise. Both of those quarterbacks made schools that are not relevant in football relevant.
Right.
I just try to
So-
figure out.
Josh
Comparisons.
Allen would be,
But yeah.
and
yeah,
I would
that's
say
fair.
Allen's probably even a little bit more
More athletic.
athletic, but not
Based off of
like we're
based off of
talking
his sheer
small.
size and what he can do,
Correct.
that's where I agree with Allen.
But even if
being
you
more-
look at Allen now, like that dude has put in work in the weight room.
oh yeah,
He
gotten
wasn't
bigger.
He was not small when he came into the league, and he is a big dude now.
He's
yeah.
he's
I mean, he's bigger than
Yo.
every linebacker he
Yoked.
plays against in the
So
NFL.
hey, as we stick to quarterbacks,
Yeah.
before we get on to the news of the receivers with Hopkins,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me started on that. But
we will.
so let's go into this. I'm a little homer of Mayfield because he married one of the family members that basically raised me,
Yep.
Emily Wilkinson and the Wilkinson family.
Okay.
Emily being his wife. And knowing I don't want to say, I don't know much insider information, but I just want to get to the maturation of like, how much does it suck being Baker, right? And you haven't heard much from him lately.
No.
And the Browns and how they
Warranted,
dealt with the situation. Now, again, more of the Homer side. I think they've done a terrible job, also very good job at the same time. So you go get Deshaun with buku bucks and steal him away from the Falcons and the Saints. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. The poor part of that is you didn't trade Baker beforehand and could have got sweet value for this draft.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
What was the best offer for Baker? I honestly
he's not getting. I don't think he's getting a first rounder. I think he's getting a 2 and maybe 2 fours.
There was a 2, couple 3s from the Panthers because of NFC South. So that's what I saw.
Right. By the way,
huge value.
Baker in this year's draft was a top 10 pick.
Yes. Yep.
He
was.
Baker Mayfield on-field production is like you can talk about where he was bad when he played hurt, but Baker Mayfield healthy is
I think
still above
top 20
average.
starter.
I think my favorite
NFL quarterback.
He's a top 20 starter.
My favorite part about Baker is he's a gamer. The dude is a gamer. He
played
competes.
with torn labrum in his left shoulder.
Right.
Now,
but you can't do that. That's
why
that
did
was
they
part
let
of the
him?
problem, though.
They let him.
That he killed himself by being
too
tough.
Himself, they let him.
I agree, but he's not the. If he would have said, "I'm not going out there," they couldn't have put him out there.
Yeah, but what player is ever going to say that?
A lot of NFL players these days.
Well, these days.
These days, yeah.
These days. He's not of these days up here though.
He's just
would
mentally
you
tough.
if you tore your left shoulder.
You can't talk a lot. I get it, but you can't talk a lot in today's NFL and then play and not play well
Fair.
and not face
Valid.
the repercussions. And
Valid.
that was
I agree.
Like
I agree.
he's a unicorn in that.
I agree.
That he is not. He talks like a prima donna, but he plays like an old school player.
Agreed.
And you don't see that. That's like Steve Smith Sr.
Yep. Exactly.
Guy will play through anything, run through a wall for every one of his teammates, talks nonstop. Michael Irvin, same. He's of that mold.
Agreed.
And as a quarterback, I mean, I just talked about 2 receivers, or a Ray Lewis,
the quarterbacks don't ever.
Those
do that.
guys talk.
Right.
Those guys play through injury, but the
Quarterbacks
you
don't.
can play well at those positions with injuries. You can't play well at quarterback with those injuries.
A guy that did talk quite a bit, and it was more behind the scenes talking as a quarterback, because you see videos now all the time of him talking shit all the time. Is Phillip Rivers talked so much?
Yeah, but he never cussed.
No, he did it so politely.
Right.
Dude has like 12 children. Okay, that's not comparable.
But I'm saying for a guy that talked a ton.
Yeah, no,
he's a guy that talked.
He was never anybody that was on the trading block or put himself in a position where
I agree 100% with that. I believe in that situation.
Issue. He's on every commercial.
The Browns, he's still on every commercial.
That's
but the Browns,
the Browns
from a front office and team standpoint have failed so many players that to me that should shine more light than Baker.
Why do people want to keep going there? That's
I have no idea.
So here's the thing.
I have no clue.
I think people want to go there, and this is
talent.
because of Baker. Because Baker started this. Baker turned that franchise around from when they were with Johnny Manziel and when they were with he turned them around and brought them to the playoffs. He brought them to that part right there. And people are like, "Hey, this is." But
they're also guys. Their jerseys are brown.
But it's
love
a building.
that
It's a building
it's
franchise. It's a building franchise, and the worst part about it is
love
Baker.
Valpo too.
Baker helped do that.
True.
People want to go there,
but back
Baker
to
helped do that.
what I was trying to get to with that point is that the value was there and no one touched it, and now it's coming out. Stories are leaking that it was part of the Browns' plan the whole time because they know Deshaun's going to get suspended. That's some factor. They believe he's going to get suspended, and now it's like, oh, cool. Guess what? We have Baker as a backup.
Right.
I don't know anything that Baker cares about in this regard. I'm just going to go to a resident quarterback here. Mm-hmm. If you're Baker in that situation, do you sit out or do you play?
He's playing. You don't play through what he played through and then not play.
Okay. I agree.
I don't even.
I can't.
like,
I can't
to
believe
me,
you
it's not
didn't even
even
look at me when
it's-
you said resident quarterback because I played quarterback too. But it's okay.
At
But
140.
to me, it's not a discussion though. Like he's
But the-
playing. He'll play because it's only going to help his
Because he's a gamer.
stock.
And it's going to help with stock.
He love
Now,
that's Baker loves football.
Where should
Right.
Baker be starting quarterback right now?
Seattle,
I mean,
They have
that's-
Drew Lock.
Carolina,
Say it louder then.
New Orleans.
Keep going. I mean, he's better than, and this is like stat backup, but it's also eye test. He's better than at least 15 quarterbacks in the NFL. Right?
Detroit.
San Fran?
I mean,
I'm not sold on Trey Lance.
oh, it's fine. You can not.
And Garoppolo,
but,
by
like,
the way.
Tennessee.
I'm actually surprised that
Garoppolo's
Garoppolo
still-
has
Tennessee,
not been
Houston,
sent somewhere.
Tennessee,
Something.
Houston.
you can't get the value.
Miami's too
I
sold
know.
on
He's
Tua,
too
but
injury prone.
I'm
Yeah,
taking.
He's the opposite of Baker. He doesn't
I'm also
ever say
surprised he
anything,
never
but
went
he's
back.
always hurt.
I'm actually surprised he hasn't come back to the Patriots. Just
My-
to,
Patriots aren't going to pick up an injury.
first of all,
quarterback.
Garoppolo is the definition of backup quarterback. Has been his entire life.
Don't agree. Don't disagree.
So
Matt
like,
Castle.
be it. And well, Matt Castle too.
That's who Garoppolo is. He's Matt Castle to me.
So I just wanted to bring that up
Yeah.
from a quarterback standpoint.
I
we go into this.
actually, from an age wise and from just like attitude, because I love Baker's attitude.
Everybody wants.
He's
a
just
quarterback
got
that's
swag.
gonna
He's
be
got
a
confidence. He's
badass.
got
Well,
got that stuff. I would love him in Minnesota.
I'd love
I'm
him
not
with the
gonna lie.
Falcons before Mariota.
I would
really would've.
love him in Minnesota.
I really would have.
Now
I would take Baker over
Cousins.
I don't think so.
So
But
that-
what I
I mean,
but
that's-
what I
That's the
t-
question. That
Because,
is,
like,
no,
I just went through
I
my
don't
mind.
think so.
Would I take Baker over Dak? And to me, skill set,
they're
they're the same.
the same. I would say they're equivalent.
There's not like any difference. It's like, and they're both tough as nails.
To me, that would have been a
The
Dak
reason-
just
contract
doesn't-
question.
Dak just doesn't talk.
The reason that I say no for this is because systematically Kirk Cousins makes sense.
I know, but the only person that really should be answering this question is you.
Yeah,
Would you take Baker Mayfield as your starter on the Falcons?
I would have before Mariota and Ritter.
Would you trade Mariota and Ritter for Baker?
Ooh.
I mean, I don't know that any team wants two quarterbacks for one. In
No,
today's
that's not
NFL.
how that
It doesn't
works.
Really how that works.
But
like,
let's take
would
Ritter
you
out of it
trade a third-round pick and
for
Mariota, or a third round, which that would make the most sense because Mariota would be a backup. Would you trade a third rounder in Mariota for Baker?
depending contract numbers. Yes,
Knowing that you would have to sign Baker.
knowing that I don't know his contract offhand, so that doesn't help.
Right, but like
It fits
you're signing
money-wise,
him for
yes.
$30+ million a year, because that's what the quarterbacks get signed for. these
Which
days.
is so stupid.
But I mean that's it. You're $150 million over 5 years, Baker Mayfield, for Mariota and a third round pick.
Yeah.
He's the future of the Falcons. Over
I wouldn't say he's the future, but yes, I would.
But like that's
Absolutely.
ultimately what the deal is. Is
In
like
2 years, a
he's
year or
our
two
quar-
from now,
he's
we
our
draft
quarterback.
someone else. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I would.
You got him with Pitts. You got him with
Yes, I would.
Drake. I mean, yeah, right.
One,
Easily.
two. I'm gonna go through and count this because
I would, because I know he would have the swagger and everything that needs in this city. Because
5.
we have none.
Right.
2, he's going to throw up to those targets, and he will regardless. He's a slinger, and he's marketable. And Atlanta needs something so marketable right now. It's stupid.
Right.
You think about it. Grady Jarrett is the best player on the team, to me, hands down, followed by Pitts. Regardless, both those guys aren't marketable.
They're not going to put fans in the stands.
No.
I count 15 teams that I would start him on, with argue for maybe 2 or 3 more.
Correct. And the stats, like you can say what you want, but the stats back that up.
And I think
They do.
I think
Even
stats
somewhat
probably
injured,
say
the stats back it up.
probably say
Top 12.
18 teams that I would start him on. Probably right around there. I think just sheer eye test, I'm reading a name and I say 15 at least that I'm taking.
Right. But like that's why I said the Falcons, like that. I mean, that absolutely, I would start him on the Falcons.
Yeah.
And like for the next 4 to 5 years, be able to build at least a playoff contender. So,
Absolutely. All right.
all right,
NFL over. Take a
NFL
break.
over.
'cause-
Quick
Yeah,
break.
same.
And then golf. The Wells.
Old goof.
It's time.